Hello, and I'm Charles Knapp, and I'm going to present the solution for San Francisco from Byron Preiss's book, The Secret. And I'm going to be a little unconventional. The old days we had slide projectors and you dropped your slides on the floor and it was a mess. Yesterday I was putting this together, fighting with the digital slide presentation to convert it to video with voiceover. And I said, to heck with it, I'll use the old method. Of course, this method employs some old-fashioned slide changing. So let's get rolling. And by the way, a lot of people have contributed to this with their comments and theories online. So that's why it's myself and others. Okay, so that was the beginning art by Palancar. And this is the verse that's in the book. And we'll go through some of this as we go. We'll see here. Okay. The latitude and longitude of this puzzle, San Francisco, is right there in front of us. It's 38. You find that in the hair. And you can find the longitude of 122 going down the front here. Here's my fancy pointer, 122. And the latitude is 38 north. Longitude is west, of course. And we're starting at the aquatic park in San Francisco. Maritime Museum is there. And there's some other notable features. There's the Maritime Library, and Hyde Street Pier is nearby, Visitor Center. So, next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to start at Stonewall's door. Stonewall door, I believe, is right here. We're looking at it. It's the front of the Maritime Museum. And so let's move on. There's some features you can see in this picture, in this photo, and I'm not going to cover all of them. But I believe what happened was that a photographer took pictures locally. They sent them in to Palancar, and it was incorporated into the art and the verse combined to give us these great puzzles. Next slide. Here we go. So, the air smells sweet, of course, and I've been practicing most of yesterday with my pronunciation, Giardelli. So, sorry about that. But the nice thing about Giardelli, and this is really the secret of the secret, is when the wife comes home from the grocery store and she has one of these. It's a Giardelli chocolates. You can see it a little bit here. Let me get some light on that. So what you do is you cut the top off. You open it up when your wife's not looking, and that's the secret of the secret. Okay. So anyway, back to the puzzle. This is the starting point. And here's the waterside view of the Maritime Museum with the Giardelli chocolate square, chocolate factory in the background, in the back. Okay, so education and justice is mentioned in the verse, and I believe the education is quite simply the Education Center of Sea Scout Base or the Maritime Library, which is nearby. And everyone should be familiar with Alcatraz, which is the justice part of the verse. So we have education and justice. You also have in the verse, high posts are 3 for all to see. And I left a little bit out, but I just combined the verse a little bit. And there's more than one high post or 3 in this photo, and I believe the one, it doesn't really matter. It could have been the one on the right or the one on the left that we're referring to, that's being referred to in the verse. And so, and to see could be a play on the words to see, which is interesting. I guess they could have said the verse was high posts are 6, take your picks. No, I'm sorry, that didn't work. So anyway, and you can see what those vessels are. nearby High Street Pier, and I'm not going to try to pronounce the first one, but the second one is the C.A. Thayer. It's a schooner. Okay, sounds from the sky, I believe, are from the speakers that used to be, and I don't know, maybe there's some there now, on these concrete structures at the aquatic park. And here's a visual from above, an aerial picture, and there were bocce courts, or maybe they're still there, I don't know, down below next to the Maritime Museum. And correct me if I'm wrong in my comments, but I'm thinking these are those bocce courts. Now if you stand below and then you know the rules of bocce, you can figure out that ace is high could possibly mean what happens in bocce ball with when you make an ace. Okay, so we have the high poster 3. We also notice in this video picture this photo Coit Towers nearby. I say nearby. This is a night, obviously a night picture, and I believe this is from fireworks that were down there at Aquatic Bay. It's very spectacular. It caught my attention because these orbs, or what I call fireworks, most people call fireworks, reminded me of these orbs in the top part here. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. Oh, if they're not fireworks, maybe it's an invasion from the aliens. I don't know. Oh, moving on. Sorry, bad joke. Okay, a cross is fairly common to believe, represented in the artwork with the crossed hands and arms here in the center. The verse itself goes running north, but first across, to me implies you need to go east or west to get where you need to go. But across can also mean across town, across streets, and it also says first across, which we'll get to. And she's giving us directions with her hands, I believe. So she's telling us to go 6 blocks down and then go left. You can see the left hand forms an L. You go left 8 blocks. Also, I believe this is Pearl Buck right here is the model, or she's representing Pearl Buck. The jewels of pearl, and there's a ton of information that can be added there, but I'm trying to keep this short. Okay, so our starting point's the aquatic park, and we're gonna do what she tells us to do there with as far as the directions. So, and it's interesting that these crosswalks, I think, they kind of look like blocks, and they do represent blocks. So that's kind of interesting. And so I put the numbers on the map. Now, if I start on this side of the aquatic park, which is what I did originally, go 6 blocks. I'm on Lombard Street, and then I go down. Actually, I have to go 8 or 10 or 7 before I'm near anything of significance as far as this puzzle goes. However, if I start at this end of the park and I come down, intersect Lombard Street, it gives me 8, and I'm at Coit Tower, or Pioneer Park, which is, I think, where we're headed. So let's go that way, Lombard Street, and it's just very striking, and people know the serpentine, the hairpin turns on Lombard Street, and those serpentine appearance, I believe, is depicted in the artwork with the dragon serpentine, and that's what we got there. We get up to the top after we go north. We went to the east, and then we went north, just like the verse says. And we get up to the top, and there used to be a statue of Columbus. I understand that's gone now, but Columbus was first across the Atlantic, and of course in this he's got a cross. So there's some some value to that as far as the puzzle goes. And if you look at a topo, you kind of get this pattern, which looks like a yin and yang, and that's shown here. This is a enhanced version of the artwork. You can find them on 12treasures.com, and it makes it easier to see some features if you look at the yin and yang symbol here. Okay, moving on. So we're at Coit Tower, so you got to do a little bit looking at the history. Named after Lily Hitchcock Coit, and she was a member of the firefighters, the fire department there. She became a volunteer firefighter. She was rescued from the fire, and then she contributed back, and they were quite pleased with what she did back in the day, and she wore this gold badge. Apparently, I'm assuming this is the gold badge given to her by the fire department. Now, the reason I mention this is because of what we see in the artwork, and we'll get to that in a second, but this just shows a little of the history. Oh, she liked to play poker, and she was a cigar smoker, and those things kind of come up also in some other clues, which I'm not going to go into now. But the gold badge, that may be significant when you look at the artwork, and this isn't just your average normal pearl. It's got a lot of gold. So I don't know if that was the San Francisco gold symbolism or the badge that she was wearing. Also notice there's blue around the pearl. Well, blue usually signifies water, and that I believe is important, as we'll see. Okay, now part of the verse is regarding Twain's attention, and so there's a Mark Twain connection in the verse itself that we have to figure out, and I believe that was Coit Tower and the relationship that Mr. and Mrs. Coit had, and also Candlestick is also a Mark Twain object of Mark Twain's attention. But you get up there, and this is what you're going to see, and you have steps up there, some landscaping, and so we're going to investigate further. This is what it looks like from the front, the steps going up real quickly. So I'm kind of stuck at this point, but if you go back to the artwork, you can maybe pick out some things that might be true or significant. If you start at the flower, you come down Lombard, you go through the coil, so to speak, to get to the top of Coit, and maybe you're up there at Coit and you're looking for some things that correspond with the artwork. And this, we presume, is a clock. This might be a cable car, dark outline below, and it also could be a candlestick. We got a leaf that's black pointing down to an X. So I'm going to move on with that. Now look around and you stick your head inside Coit Tower, and you see, I saw this online, and I got thinking, well, maybe it's not a clock. Maybe that is really an indicator, the elevator indicator. Well, in the artwork, it has some symbols at the bottom. One's showing like a upside down, a triangle. So in other words, flip upside top to bottom. And there's also on the left or right. So if you flip this upside down, you could get the 12 up top. And you would end up with the 12 up top. And you see these marks here, they're on the side, but there's none down here. And none at the 12 also. Well, if you look at this, you have the marks on the sides, nothing on the above and below. Also, the indicator looks like the clock hand, sort of. Now use your imagination. Okay, so here's the up and down, flip and flop top to bottom. This is the side to side, left and right. So maybe when you get to your floor, the elevator makes a ding sound. I don't know. And so this is just a comparison. The 6 on here certainly is 6 o'clock. However, maybe we're referencing 6 feet under, a reference for under the table, because if you look at this art, it's very dark from here on down. It's almost black, like things are dead down here or underground or defunct. So real quickly, if you come down the stem of the flower, you have nice green leaves, it's alive, and you follow it around, and the yellow, it is a branch, it's the stem, and it's black, and the leaf is black, and things are black. To me, that means things are dead, maybe buried underground. Just an interpretation there. And here's the left and right. Right here, once we do swap the left and right and get the mirror image, we have a good clue as far as maybe Giardelli. And these could be aces high. If you look at a die, each die has looks like that. Okay, moving on, looking out a window, you have this nice shape here. You can see it here, and sure enough, in the artwork, that's what happens with this. It's not a complete flat rectangle in the artwork. So I'm looking for aces high, something to keep me going on this verse and this puzzle, and there is an ace up high. I'm not going to go into all, there's actually more to that, but I'm still not convinced. I'm looking around. Okay, what do I find over here? This water fountain kind of draws attention to it. So let's look at closer. It looks kind of like a candlestick supporting that in a way. It can be considered like a candlestick. And maybe the Palancar drew this onto the art as the table. Okay, and at the base, you notice that it looks like an ace. And I made it into an ace. If I don't like it, I make it that way. Just kidding. So anyway, and so if you want, I ran a sun calculation for the 6th of June. I put 1980. You can put 81, 82. It's going to give you similar results. I didn't know the exact height. I put in there 1 meter, and I think it turns out it's maybe 37 inches. I don't know. But what that'll do is tell me where the shadow goes and how far it extends from the center and which direction. So I ran that, and you can see here the shadow at 6 o'clock in June will run out and down to the southeast, mostly east, and let's continue on. So I'm thinking this is the ace, this is a giant pole, and giant step would be out that direction, because that's where the shadow would extend. So this is interesting because there's some work that has been done, but I believe they did not encroach upon the cask. It's out in this direction. We're going to take a giant step, and I think they missed it by quite a few inches, and if you miss it by an inch, you miss it by a lot, like a mile. Okay, so if you follow the dead leaf, it points to an X. We'll call this a water fountain. There's blue around that. Remember, blue around the pearl? I believe the blue represents the water fountain. Here's an interesting shot. Shows the area, and that looks kind of like a pearl to me. I'm just throwing that because it looked very interesting. Let's continue on. If you go back to the artwork, you see 1, 2, 3, like we're counting downward. If you start at the dragon's head or serpent's head and you go downward, you can pick up these numbers. And if that was you online that figured this out, go ahead and put that in the column, because in the comments section, excuse me, or anything else so you can get credit. There's so many comments, so many people that I just couldn't keep track where the origins were from. So anyway, we're going to go through the 6, and then there's a 5, there's a 4, there's a 3, there's a 2, and then a 1. And 1, of course, is an ace. So it's taking us down here to the tail, and there's the ace. If you follow the tail all the way around, it's pointing to this cross with a rectangle around it. Well, a cross with a rectangle, if we're thinking about burying an underground, could mean there's something buried underground. And if that's the ace, the water fountain, and it's at the correct location, as you can see here, would be to the south, to the east. And you can compare that again if you want. Anyway, so that all matches. It's a very good match. So with the puzzle, we have a kind of top to bottom puzzle, left to right, light to dark, a crossover. We have a beginning and an end. And so that's our solve. And this shows the words and how they fit together to produce the location, where we arrive at the location. Okay, and lastly, quick note, do not dig without permission. It's a National Historic Site, and I also have left things out, a ton of information out of this presentation because it's already too long and I didn't want to extend it. I'm going to do some follow-on videos on the other information. Real quickly, if you look, I wanted to point this out. Somebody astutely pointed online that tinting is unique on the face of Pearl Buck, or the lady, or whoever you want to call the lady in this. It's kind of a yellowish tint, brownish tint right here, red over here, and it's dark over here. Now the red could be like a sunburn, or you burn in a fire, which would fit with Coit Tower. The yellowish could also represent like Asian, and the red could represent Native American. The dark could represent like African American or Hispanic or Latino. And so this figure could be a composite of all of us, of America. And she has her hands and arms crossed. And not just crossed, but they're clasped in harmony. So let's find some harmony in America. And that's all. So peace out and have a wonderful day.